And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's recap of the Orlando Magic versus the Detroit Pistons, I want to make sure to remind you guys that now that it is the holiday season, you have to make sure to add Revved Up merch to your Christmas list. So if you've been a good boy or good girl this year, you may just get some Revved Up merch. So if your parents are buying your merch, your grandma, whatever it might be, make sure to share our YouTube channel to them, because all it will take is in our YouTube bio or in the description below. You click that link to Grind Clothing Co. times Revved Up. That is where our collab is. And that will shoot you right to Grind's website, where you can look at a plethora of different design clothing options. We also have mugs, little bags, beanies, stickers. We got a lot of cool stuff, even stockings, Revved Up 906 stockings, which, I mean, come on, that's so cool. So make sure, come on, like, what even? I love it. So make sure to click that link and rep your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast, Revved Up 906. Also, we know that the Pistons are struggling. We know, but one day the Pistons are going to turn it around, and you're going to want to be in the know with all the Detroit Pistons news, and you have to like and subscribe in order to stay up to date in everything that's going on with the Detroit Pistons, because we are constantly talking to you, the people. So make sure to stay in the know and subscribe to our channel if you are new here. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Orlando Magic. Tonight's final score was 123-91 in the Orlando Magic's favor. Ryan, it's getting rough out here, man. I mean, tonight, it was just so hard to watch. It was hard to watch. And it's not even like the Orlando Magic played amazing basketball. I mean, Franz Wagner did his thing with 27 points, but what are some of your first takeaways?
Yeah. When you have, first off, I like to give props to the Orlando Magic, because it's something unique and something that I like every single time. How many former Michigan players they have on their roster. They have the Wagner brothers. Then they have Caleb Houston, etc. And then you even have little brother in Michigan State with Gary Harris. Yeah. They have a fully blown Big Ten Michigan basketball roster going for themselves, but it's something cool and unique that you normally don't see in the NBA or in any league out there. So that's why I want to give my hats off to the Orlando Magic every single year, because it's really cool. But from that coolness to this, I don't even know what this was. Kind of performance out of the Pistons tonight. It was awful. At one point, I'm like, well, let's go make dinner, because I'm not trying to sit here painfully watching this, but I did still. I was watching from the kitchen. But the point is, this game was not good. You look at the box score, everybody played, which normally doesn't happen unless you're getting blown out or you're blowing the opposing team out. And in that regard, we were getting blown out. In terms of who was out there and got crucial minutes, like, you saw the normal guys. You saw Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Bojan Bogdanovic. Marvin Bagley got the start tonight because Duran is out with the left ankle sprain, which thankfully they're just saying 2 weeks, ankle sprain, that's it. So that's good. But out of the guys that played tonight, there weren't many bright spots. Asar Thompson, as good as he's been through the first couple games of the season, as soon as Monty was like, hey, I love you, but you need to be taking better shots and handling the ball better than you have been, so I'm going to have you coming off the bench. Ever since that change happened, Asar Thompson has been playing like middle of the pack rookie. That's what he's playing like right now. And I'm not trying to diss him, but when you shoot 2 of 12 from the field in 20 minutes played, that is atrocious. 0 of 5 from 3. I don't even know why you're taking a 3-point shot. You're not very good. I'm not trying to go off right now, but when you're 0 of 5 from 3, there's a reason why these teams are leaving you open. you can't shoot the three ball. I mean, you'll get lucky from time to time, but you're not a shooter. Don't go shooting that. Instead, when you're in that situation, look to drive immediately because the defense is going to suck in. That's when you kick out and you have like Cade Cunningham open for a three. You have Bogey open for a three. You have all these other guys open for a 3-point shot that actually can make that. And it just spaces the floor out and opens the game up for a lot more players out there, and we can move the ball more freely. Just there's not many bright spots other than probably Killian. Killian had a solid game. Cade was doing his thing. And then even Alec Burks had a great game. But outside of them, like Bojan Bogdanovic was supposed to come in and immediately be that impact player. We had that earlier on when we were keeping it close. He had multiple 20-point nights, but tonight, 4 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 0 of 1 at the line, finishing with 9 points, 3 boards, assists, and a steal. That's not going to cut it out of Bojan Bogdanovic. There was just too many negatives to very little positives tonight for the Pistons.
Yeah, and you mentioned it before. One positive from tonight is Alec Burks. I like the way he played tonight. 14 points is on the low end from what I would like from him here. Typically, especially coming off like 5 or 6 games in a row, kind of very cold. I would like a comeback game, in a positive light to be a little bit bigger, but it is what it is. I mean, and Bojan Bogdanovic, 9 points, brutal. There's not many positives from tonight, so just bear with us. I mean, you, the watchers and spectators, you get it. You're watching the games with us too. You're watching the highlights on Instagram. You're looking at the box score. So it's like you understand that there's just going to be some recaps where it's so hard to find the positives. But tonight, one of the negatives that was so obvious to me, and I've said it in the last 2 or 3 recaps, I hope Pistons fans are watching every time I mention this. Watch during these games on offensive end. The ball handler is the only one moving. The 4 other Pistons players are standing around the 3-point line or maybe one in the paint and just watching the ball handler try to win these one-on-one battles. There's no offensive continuity. There's no running of plays. And if there is very little of running of plays, they're all unsuccessful unless it's straight out of a timeout. It's very brutal to watch, and it affirmed all the worries I've had, all the things that I've thought about the moving with a purpose on the offensive end, the moving without the ball. And it's brutal. And it's not just because this team is young. We can't use that as an excuse. I see Bojan do it. I see Bagley do it. I see Isaiah Stewart doing it. These bad habits that these guys have been in the league. Stewart's in his 4th season now. Marvin Bagley's in his 7th or 6th season now. It's like these guys have to eventually start showing some effort here, because even on the defensive end, there's just not much movement. A lot of the points in the paint from the guards came off of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey's opponents. That is something that happens every game. Something has to give. Right now, the 76ers hold the record for most consecutive losses in a row. Detroit just reached their 19th. The Sixers is NBA record for most consecutive losses is 28. And I told my dad that. And my dad goes, they have a good shot at catching. He was like, he goes, honestly, like I see it happening. Like 9 more. He's like, and something that was kind of interesting that my dad said, we don't always get to watch games together. So we were kind of fired up, just kind of like complaining. He said that if Dwayne Casey was still the coach of the Pistons, they would have 4 to 5 more wins than the Pistons do at this point. So my dad's basically saying like we should have just gave a little extension, to Casey, like 2 more years other than Monty. So that's where the Pistons fan base as a whole. My dad's been watching the Pistons. He's 44 years old. He's been watching them for 37 years, like forever. And it's like every Pistons fan, whether they, young Pistons fans like us or the guys that have been watching for nearly 40 years, it's rough for everybody. It's rough.
Yeah, you mentioned the ball movement. We always make a comment about the ball movement, playing with a purpose. Tonight there was there was no purpose to be playing for other than I see it seems like they were playing to be embarrassed. That's what it seemed like to me. So in other words, they were playing for a purpose. Just weren't playing for a good one. Um, just like I understand the Orlando Magic this year more than the last couple are built to win right now. They're not like cream of the crop. Watch out for them because they're a real threat. They're more of like they're slowly getting into that arc of being a real threat. The
Right.
depth they have, when you have a guy in Cole Anthony coming off your bench who could easily start for majority of the teams in the league, coming off
Yeah.
your bench, like it shows you how good they are from a depth standpoint. And we said going into the season, like we have a good like depth built of guys. I'm that was a weird jumble of a sentence, but we have depth more than we have the last couple of years, and clearly that's not the case. It's been proven evident. But the one the one reason you could bite that still is due to injury. We haven't had Monte Morris come in yet for us. Joe Harris finally just got back out there today.
Right.
We had Bojan gone for 3+ weeks. Jalen Duren has been in and out and is out again. We've had a lot of guys dealing with injuries that are veteran players that usually would make a bigger impact on our team than just the young guys. And so you could make an excuse and go like, "Hey, we haven't been 100% healthy. That's why we're losing these games." But that
Right.
shouldn't be the main reason why you're losing these games. You're losing these games because you're not trying. That's the bottom line. And I don't like pulling that card out because I'm sure James Wiseman in his 16 minutes to himself was working his tail off. I'm sure that Jaden Ivey in his 21 minutes was working his tail off. Like I'm sure all these guys are thinking that, and I would agree. They probably are working a lot harder than I would have worked out there because they're in the NBA. I'm not. But the bottom line is like you're getting paid millions of dollars to play this game, and we're pretty much, I'm just going to say it, we're the laughing stock of the NBA right now. We really are. We're the worst team in the league, and it pains me to say that because there are a lot of teams out there right now, like the Wizards, like the Grizzlies, the Spurs even, who they don't even have anywhere near the depth that we have on our roster, and yet they're still going out there and winning these games. And it's just it irks me a little bit, and it irks me when you have the entire NBA, when you have casual fans that don't really know what they're talking about at all, going like, "Oh yeah, the Pistons suck." Like a casual fan knows that. So it's just the bottom line is they're not playing with a purpose, and the ball movement's not there. We're playing bad defense. This was probably our worst defensive game all season long, and especially on this losing streak that we've been on of 19 now. But like our defense was atrocious in the first half. I mean, in the first quarter, it was decent, 5 point game going into the second quarter, not bad. But then you have the second quarter, Orlando goes off for 30, score 9 more points than we do to our 21. And then the third quarter, they score 35, we score 24. And normally in the third quarter, we've been better lately. But then the fourth quarter, they score 30 again, we score 23. So like we're getting outscored every single time out there. And you would think that Monty would be like, "Hey, guys, we need to do something on defense." And I'm sure he did because he's a great coach. He knows how to game plan, he knows how to win. But clearly these players who are saying they're trying to buy in aren't buying in, because if you're really buying in, you're trying. And the bottom line is they did not try tonight. I'm going on a tangent right now, so I'll stop. But like it's painful to watch the Pistons lose as badly as they have been on a consistent basis, because there's no way in heck you should be playing this bad 19 games in a row without a win in sight.
Right. I completely agree. I was really digging for positives. One I found was actually in the second quarter. The Pistons started that quarter 8 of 12 shooting. So they proved that they can have glimpses of light against these solid Eastern Conference teams It's just finding that consistently throughout 4 quarters. Ryan, any last thoughts before we wrap up tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Orlando Magic?
Killian Hayes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my biggest positive from tonight is the play of Killian Hayes. I know a lot of Pistons fans out there just hate him for really an unknown reason, probably because they wanted Tyrese Halliburton and we passed on him to take Killian Hayes. And then we passed on him again to take Sadiq Bey, and we passed on him again. Did we pass? No, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I love Killian Hayes. You love Killian Hayes. There's a couple of us Pistons fans that are diehard Killian Hayes fans,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for it because this season, given the opportunity, he has taken full advantage of it. And 16 points out of him, I am not complaining at all. 7
Yeah.
boards out of him, no complaints here. 4 assists, a little low, but who cares when Killian Hayes is having the best season of his career so far with us this season? And that's my one big positive from tonight was the play of Killian Hayes. I mean, outside of Cade did his thing, and Alec Burks did his thing. But like, if Killian didn't have the impact that he had on certain occasions tonight, like going and getting his own shot when there was nobody cutting around him, like he did that a lot tonight.
Right.
But even so, like he's hitting jumpers in guys' faces left and right. And so Killian Hayes, hats off to you. You had a great game. It's just too bad the rest of the team couldn't play up to their expectations like you did tonight.
Well, and something about Killian Hayes's 7 rebounds shows that there was an effort there from him. He really did seem like he had the best body language out there tonight. And that goes a long way, that 7 rebounds from a guard. I mean, that shows that there's a little bit of that underlying effort from certain players. But Killian's not necessarily the kind of guy that will rally a team. You know, he's not that huge personality like a Stu or a Duran. But I appreciate those 7 rebounds in that 16 points. He shot efficiently too, which is great for Killian. That's something he struggled with. He can get up and, get his points gathered up, get his assists, get his rebounds, but he's always struggled with efficiency. And tonight he shot 7 of 11. So I love it. So we'll end out on a positive for tonight's recap. I love it. Tonight's final score of the Detroit Pistons versus the Orlando Magic was 123-91. That will do it for tonight's recap. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in tomorrow's episode. Peace.